G'day everybody and welcome back for some more Survival Impossible. And I am making progress on getting this train complete. I feel like I've made some pretty strong progress. Added some extra railings in here, but most importantly, I think I'm happy with the color. I added a bunch of red as a number of people suggested. Maybe I should be bringing in the theme that has continued throughout my entire every single build except for the Panini in this series. Actually, and the Canaries. The Canaries and the Panini have both been yellow. Everything else has been red and white. Which I believe, I may be misremembering, but I think I pulled the red and white because of the mountains and the trees around here. Because they've got those very, very red leaves. So I think now that I've added the red to the train, it's actually, I reckon it's looking better. I know some of you are going to disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. Because I think this has improved it. I think this is better than it looked when it was all in white. And it's allowed these square bits at the ends of the cars to actually, I think, come together a bit better. Still not 100% happy with the shape, but it is definitely better than it was. What I am also going to do, and which I've set myself up for, is moving that hitch down 2 blocks. So a meter lower than it currently is. Because I feel like every bit of me is telling me that it should have been lower, and a few of the comments agreed with that. Largely because it prevents any turning force being turned into twisting force, making the thing go off the rails. Not that there should be a lot of that, because my curves are going to be very, very gentle, but still probably best to not have that be a thing. Oh, geez, I'm glad I put my HUD back up now. Let's go inside and fix that. And speaking of being inside, I discovered something else that I hadn't realized, which is that, weirdly enough, I sometimes can't eat inside. I think it's if I'm already injured, below 70, it won't let me eat inside. Or it didn't sometimes. It's weird. I think the food and water might be getting blocked sometimes by the health regeneration side of stuff. Because that blocks you using stuff like power kits in the vanilla game. So I think it's the same behavior. But it was a bit weird. So if you're having issues with that, just remember to go to somewhere where you don't have oxygen. And you should be able to eat. It's weird. I do wonder if that works if you depressurize an area in an otherwise oxygen-rich planet. I reckon it does. Imagine. Maybe. Yeah. Alright, let's get this hitch lowered so I can clean up that bit up there. I've put a conveyor converter beneath another junction here. And then that just goes with small connections through here. And now that I look at my train more, I do realize I really, really, really didn't need this to be a, a 2-car train. It could have been a single one. Just locomotive, done, nothing else. But we're here now. And what this means is the low slung car at the front can be where I put my flyers. And that means that their center of mass won't be particularly high. Because if you imagine, if I put a connector on that rear car, and then I put a connector on the vehicle that's connecting up to that, and then everything starts getting quite high, and those vehicles can be quite heavy. So that would be putting the center of mass much higher than I am comfortable with. So I don't want to do that. So it has an advantage, but it is also probably unnecessary. Alright, so let's get hitch. Nope, that is not where that's meant to go. Oh, this is gonna... Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh dear. Oh, dear. This could be bad. Can I nerd pole? I'm stuck. Like, I'm really stuck. Come on, let me nerd pole. Oh, man. I was genuinely stuck in there. I couldn't jump out. I was almost like getting stuck in that connector a couple of years ago. Jeez. Horrible.
Energy
Oh, I keep jumping to the wrong side. I need to be on this side because I need to put first up, the hinge on here, I think. Is it gonna let me? That's the other thing. I was hoping I could connect this up but I can't. I'm gonna have to detach. Okay, that's fine. Now also, to be sensible, I have hooked up to the connector on the base so that this was getting charged, because that was probably important. Now this could be a problem. Now these two parts have a very different roll amount to them, which is not great. Okay, let's unlock this. Let's see if we can somehow get this to work. Because that is a full block off. I might have to build some sort of control onto this part of the train so that I can then control it, drive it for... Oh, this is gonna be so annoying. Am I snagged on it now? Oh, I'm snagged on it. Oh boy. Part of me wondering if this should be further apart. Like if these blocks should be... If there should be more bits in this hinge. In this hitch, I should say. Or whether I am doing the right thing and having this as close to each other as I can reasonably have them. Right, let's try that. See if that... No, a little bit further. See if I can take advantage of these angles to make this kind of push itself back into place. Oh. Just remembered something. Yeah. I did remove some of the stops here to... it doesn't have a very strong braking position. Let's pop that there. And pop that there. And now those wheels have something to push up against so that when I bash into it with the front part of the train, it will hopefully not push that off the end of the rail and into everything else. Well, this could get horrible. I think it might have attached. Hey, it did. Sweet. Turn you off. Excellent. So these should not need limits on them because the rails should be providing the limits. But I'll put limits on them anyway. Just in case it actually does have an impact, but it shouldn't. Alright, with that done, my plan is just to finish the decoration stage on this car. And then, after I've done that, I'll jump ahead to building the flying things, because that's what I really want to do. I am really seriously thinking about two flying things. One that's a rescue thing and one that's a welder thing. I know they could serve the same purpose, but I just feel like having a tiny little rescue thing would be nice. And to have a design that I like for something like that would also be nice. So that's the plan. Oof. This is getting more and more of a list the more that I build on it. It's not ideal. So, as you can see, I've made... Ow. Stop being... No, don't be stuck here. I don't want to... why? Oh. Oh. Come on. Let me out. 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 Why do you like this?
Fuel critical.
Oh, great. No, we got no jetpack. Alright, I'm going to have to grind my way out. Fine.
Energy.
Well, there's a reason for potentially making the gap between the carriages larger. Because if I get stuck there at anywhere but the station, I'm dead. Oh boy. So as you can see, I have made some progress on designing the back half of the train. And I'm pretty happy with it so far. I'm sure there will be some tweaks and things to improve over time, but with the whole train listing to the side, it does make me wonder about some of the decisions I made and whether I go to the effort of undoing them later. So the decisions I'm talking about are the locations of the welders and how that interacts with the platform, as well as the location of this catwalk down the side. But I'm going to leave them for now because I can fix them later when I actually go to build this station properly, or even not if I've finished the train line by then and this can just park on a siding and just look cool. But the bit that I got up to with the construction that I wanted to talk about, rather than just doing it, is attempting to get some sort of ramp or stairs that goes up to the level on that's on top of these conveyors. Right now, I've got this catwalk down here, and when I got to the end of it, I did this ramp up like this, largely because I really struggled to come up with any sort of idea of how to use these neon tubes to make barricades that made sense and looked good for stairs. Because the top of the barricade being made with a half slab, like a half plate in height, we don't have any diagonals that work like that. We don't have a corner the shape of that little square corner, like a triangle one at that size. So we can't have diagonals at that scale, which is unfortunate, but also neons don't have a diagonal either, which means you have to do this kind of stepwise thing, which I'm not a big fan of. I would try and avoid that most of the time. And I think I've come up with a solution. I think I've got an idea that could work. One of the things I was thinking about is when you look at the triangular pieces, the actual height of those is not a full block if you go perpendicular to the long side of the triangle. So that height is kind of in between a full block and a half block, and we might get away with being able to use those triangular pieces. Obviously, they're going to have to be in battered rather than hazard, because hazard doesn't line up with those pieces, which is really annoying. But we should be able to get away with that one, I think. So the problem I think I have a solution to is the neon tubes. And conveniently, this also creates a solution for another problem with the stairs, which is when I'm building grated, because I'm going to use barred window, sorry. I don't have attachment points on the side here, except for if I do it way back at these conveyor junctions, which I didn't really want to. I wanted the slope to be about here. So I need the neon tubes to provide the support for the stair as well, which seems like an unnecessary thing to do. However, in finding this as a solution, it's something I can use elsewhere and almost certainly will. So what I'm going to do is grab my neon tubes. We're going to start with this neon tubes down. And I'm going to place... how many do I need? I think I need 4. 1, 2, 3. And I can't place the one there, so I'll have to do that when I loop around. Then let's hop across. And we should be able to build on top of those without too much trouble. So now I need to just think about where these barred windows are going to be so I get the heights right for their attachment points. So I think the first one will go here. Now that's not going to be in black, but I'll paint it after. Now the next one needs to have an attachment point, so we're going to provide that with the neons. So I need the one that doesn't have any, which is neon tubes 1. Place on there. Then I need the one that does have a support, neon tubes 2, because then I can put the bars against it, which is nice. And I'll do the same on this third bit. So going up with the regular bit that doesn't have any attachments, and then putting the attachment at the height where I need the barred windows to attach. So that gives me my ramp. My ramp is now attached to those neon tubes. So I can get up here and that'll be all nice. The bit that's still tricky is now... The bit that's still left to do is now to make this look half decent. We'll go with, I think, that one. Then we'll need to have some attach there. There's a part of me that's wondering whether I should do this a block to my left with the neons, so they start on that one. But there's a reason not to, which is you can have a look out here. I've used that block because I've got one of the plates on there. So I'd have to remove that plate, and then that creates other problems. So we'll see if I can get away with having it where I do right now. And yes, I do love this decorative stuff. I can't help myself. If we imagine this as the left bit as the upside, on the downside, I want to actually have an attachment on this one there, rather than... Whereas on the other side, I don't. Because we're going to have the triangle piece attached to that. So I'll weld these up and start building it down, and I think it'll make this clearer what I'm doing. Also, apologies for the rough sounding voice. The joys of having a toddler. So many daycare bugs. I mean, it's one of the horrible diseases I got from this planet. For this handrail, I'm thinking this. We start with a full, then we go with the corner pieces, and that's why we've got those attachments on the neons where I did. We can continue that down. This might make it easier to place the neons, so I'm starting with the slopes first. Yeah, that goes to there. Yeah. I don't want to end up over here. So then under this bit, I think, I'm not sure, I'm not convinced, but I think this might look best if I put one of these little half panels underneath the bottom of that. I'll have to see how that looks next to a railing, once I put the railing in next to it, but I think that bit there is kind of needed to tie it into the other railings that are going to be there. And yes, I'm spending way too much time on railings. But I fall off things, and I have been hurting myself a lot. You might have noticed that nearly the whole time I've been building this train, I've been injured. It's because I fall off just down to there, and I lose a few hit points, and then I have to periodically go back to the Arboretum to get health, because I'm just getting... Every now and then I'm like, yeah, I'm probably a little too close to death. I should probably not keep doing this. Yeah, then it's just a case of attaching these ones like so, and another connection one, and then another non-connection one. Can I get that from here? Yes. And that should let me place the attachment point here. Oh, actually, I should do this side a bit differently. Because that's not actually attaching there, I should put the little corner piece on here. There. Put a proper corner one rather than the combined block for that last one. Just in case I grind the wrong thing and then I lose that section because it's not attached anymore. I think that's very unlikely, but redundancy. It's not usually a bad thing. Oh dear. I just realized something. These barricades are done the exact opposite way to these ones and to the ones that I'm going to be doing here. These ones have the warning on the outside because they were attached to this surface here. Well, I'm just going to leave that and ignore that issue just in case I do decide to do what I was talking about earlier and move the welders and possibly even move the cockpit to mount it in the center. It's just so much work. But I might do it. There's another reason I might do it, which is Tracker has updated the park script, so now it turns all the things off. So if I want to have higher torque and I want to have park script controlling that cockpit, I can. In fact, I could even just... I can pick a point with the torque, where there's a little bit of jiggle, but there's very little overshoot, because if I use park for it, the jiggle will be off when I'm not moving, and there'll only be a little bit of jiggle while I'm moving, so it should be tolerable. So I probably will go to the park script for controlling the cockpit, but yeah, we'll see if I find the energy to redo this whole catwalk, redo the whole cockpit, and redo the welders. I think there's a high chance I will, but I also think there's a high chance that it'll be the kind of thing where I go, all right, let's put on a TV show on the second screen. I'm going to do this thing, and magically between episodes, it'll just be fixed. Because, woof. It's a slow process, but yeah, I think it's probably worth doing. So, the reason that came to mind is because I've put these little barred windows over the, whatchamacallit, the truss pillar. Which means I don't have a point to hook on the neons to, but also I think it might look strange if I hook some neons onto the floor and some onto the side of the car. So we will begin... Oopsie, painted the wrong thing. So what I'll do is I'll continue with the neons being on the outside and see how this railing looks once I put the rest of the bars in. So that's our barricade. I decided to go with just a single one because 2 in that size of space looked weird, even though it's a bit longer than I would like it to be. I think, on balance, a single one's fine. But I don't think I made the right call with the plate and the way I did it. I think this needs to be a full plate because it was finishing half a block higher than the other bit of railing. So let's try it with a full piece and see how it works. Gotta look at it from a bit further away, grab some air. You know what? It's not perfect. It's a long way from perfect, but... Oh! Oh. I can make it better. I'm going to go back to the half, but I'm going to put the half at the top end too. Because this is definitely making it look bulkier. Because it's overshooting the length of the neons, which the others don't. So this is still going to overshoot, but on this end, at least it's only going to overshoot in one direction. Let's try this out. I think this might be better. This is a very small detail, but as I said before, this is about trying to find a way to get stairs like this that look good and a way to make it work. Now that I think about this, I do have stairs over to the other building, but those stairs, they just use neons. They don't have any of the barricade on it, so it's a very different style. So I could have gone to that to get an idea of how it might look, but that was a different style. And I think of the approaches I've tried, that's the one I'm most happy with. Now, just to demonstrate how bad the hazard paint is on those corner blocks, the triangle ones. Here you go. Here's how bad this is. Holy dazzle camouflage. It's just... It's like... Oh, why? I know why. It's because the textures weren't designed for hazard and they added it anyway. But, it's just... I think the only 2 blocks that I like hazard texture on are this light armor half panel and, weirdly, the original interior wall block. It looks great in hazard. The way they textured it and the way the hazard gets applied to it, it is honestly one of my favorite blocks. Like, those 2 for hazard, great. Everything else for hazard, eh. It's either too large an area, or it doesn't tile right, or it's both of those things. Yeah. That's the stairs. I'm going to put some catwalk along here. I am really unhappy with how this is still connected and works, and so I'm probably going to do what people have told me all along and move it connected to the rear and have it swing down or push out even with a piston, because it could just be a single piston that pushes out and connects to the rear and then pulls away. Be nice and simple. I'll probably do something like that. But I think I'll just get the basis of that catwalk down on the top there. And once that's in place, let's get some flyers built. My thinking with these flyers is that, one, I need to rip up the floor and put an antenna in here so that I have a way to connect to the train. As I do think we can shove it in the floor. Nice and hidden. 2 is that one of these is going to need to have a cargo connection. And I mean a proper cargo connection, something that's big enough for plates to go through. And I was thinking about a way to do that. And I think I have a... It's sort of silly, but it's actually kind of not as well, given the limitations that we'd be working with here. One of the things that's really bad in Space Engineers, and we saw it a couple of weeks ago when my Canary exploded on the dock, is having inertial dampeners on something that has thrusters that's connected to a subgrid. It just goes ridiculously crazy. Like, the jiggle in the cockpit is nothing compared to the horribleness that is created with that. So, the risks of having something that docks over there to park and then lands on a connector on here is that I have to make sure that when I connect, every time with either connector, the thrusters get immediately switched off, which can be done with a control block, or I could do it in a more interesting way and have a hinge mounted on here and have a connector system that kind of comes over the top and hooks onto a cargo connector on top of the welding apparatus that I set up, with a small connector on the floor for charging and parking. It's not that silly, right? I think it'll be fine. Yes, it's more subgrids. Yes, I always go for more subgrids. And no, I don't have a better excuse than what I'm suggesting. And yes, I like the idea of it because it does keep my center of mass lower than it would be if I was sometimes parking on top of here. And if I'm sometimes parking on top of here, I kind of wonder why I move. So yeah, the alternative was an ejector and collector system, which, oh, now that I say out loud, isn't as dumb as it seems. If the collector has a junction that's in the correct orientation for small grid. Ooh. Oh. This might be like the first time ever I think I have a legit use for this. Oh, there's cargo capacity on it too, isn't there? There is. Oh. Okay. I've got to stop letting some of these stupid ideas run away with me. Okay, so let's get back to something more reasonable. So we need to put an antenna down here to make sure that I've got a way to connect to this. I doubt I have antennas anywhere on my hotbars. So let's go antenna. Then welding ship. Let's begin. So small inset connector has a single connection. No, it has one to the side, one to the back. Initially, I was thinking, oh, I can put the connector off to the side. I can. But I just don't know whether that's going to end up putting this midline or whether that's going to end up putting it on the wrong side. Basically, what I'm trying to avoid is the possibility that I will build this vehicle in such a way that it's going to cause the whole train to tip one way. The train is currently tipping, and it's tipping the opposite way to what I would expect because there is more mass on the left here. But yeah, I think that's more just the wheels and the subgrids of the connector not playing nice. I'm sure plenty of you have seen the situation where you have a rover parked to your base on subgrids and it just ends up in this really odd angle after you've left the area and reloaded the game a few times. So let's get these connectors built and locked, and then I can start building this ship. My goal with this ship is to have a single welder. Just one. And that's going to make it much, much, much easier to build in a way that's somewhat compact. One of the biggest challenges in small grid welding ships is trying to get it so that you can have a pair of welders or even a triplicate of welders all conveyed, because we have the problem of we have to use the gigantic junctions to get the parts to flow. So if I avoid that, I can have all cargo, no conveyor junction. Weight-wise, this is going to have most of its weight in the welder and the cargo that attaches to that. Just in case it becomes relevant, I doubt it will. Let's make sure that that conveyor is, that connector is conveyed up. So we'll go a medium cargo container. This does not need to hold much cargo either, which I think is important to mention. Then we can go our welder on the front. So because that's a large conveyor port there, if I wanted to put a connector mounted upwards so that I can have something swing over and connect, I would need to put a conveyor junction there and then put the connector above that. Of course, I could easily design a system that can connect to a connector mounted this way. Probably. Or I could do something funny because I never use them, and I could put a collector on here and I could just drop steel plate in via a delivery system from the back of the train. Oh, it's so tempting. It's so stupid, but it's so tempting. It means they would never actually connect, which means I wouldn't have risks of subgrid shenanigans and, you know, phantom forces, which is nice. It's a use for a collector, which is something I never use, which is arguably also nice. Have I convinced myself yet? You know what? It's stupid, but why not? It's something different. I never use the collector block outside of Manny's like grinding room, which I don't use anymore because I have better grinders now. So yeah, I'm gonna need to make a dropper from the back of the train that swings over the top and drops steel plate into this. This connector is probably going to move, but this is a nice place to build this now. Once I get the right scale, I can probably push this further back, as long as I don't push it back so far that I can't walk up here and walk around it. We need power and a cockpit, and it does need to be a cockpit. So as I'm thinking about the cockpit, there are a few options that could work here. Like we could go the standard cockpit. It's small. Same with the cab cockpit. Really small. Cab cockpit has pretty bad visibility. And I'm going to be building from first person. So I think I would go the vanilla cockpit, the flush cockpit, or the industrial. I always like the industrial for my industrial builds. I think it looks great. The downside of it is the height. I will almost certainly end up adding the extra block of height to this build anyway, so it shouldn't really be an issue. But it is just something to be mindful of. I'm thinking this build is going to be made with Flatmos. So I could drop the cockpit and put the Flatmos down below, or I could go with the flush cockpit knowing that I can fit a full Flatmo underneath it. Oh, I've got to go the industrial. I think it's the one that looks the best. Like, the old original cockpit, it's serviceable, but it's not interesting to look at, I think. So we'll go industrial, even though it has some downsides. Oh, poop. One of the things I haven't been thinking about is what do I do when I have a... what do I do when I need to grind off a block? If I misplace it, if I misclick, how do I get rid of it? I have a really dumb idea. Or is it brilliant? Dumb or brilliant? The dumb or brilliant idea is stick a Gatling on it. So if I misplace a block, I just shoot it. And get rid of it that way. It's a really small block. It's really accurate. I don't have to get out of the cockpit and grind it down. I just get scrap from grinding stuff down anyway, so it's not that much of a disadvantage. Yeah, I love it. I'm doing it. If we're going with a collector, we may as well go with a gun. So, that means... where do I mount the gun? Because otherwise I was going to need to have some sort of platform I can stand on, which means I probably want to go with either the cab or the vanilla cockpit because they can be accessed from the rear, because then I can put a platform back in this space and still have flat Atmos, the big Flatmos, underneath that, so I wouldn't be losing that space and I can jump in from behind the cockpit. It'd make it a bit awkward to get into the position to grind it, but I just have to sidle alongside, hop out, grind, back in. But I think a gun's better. Now I can put a gun on top of the industrial cockpit. So let's mount this. Yeah, there. And so that I don't forget it. Where's my gun? I'm going to need to make sure this gets piped. I'm also going to need to make sure I have a ramp to get up here. So I think just something real simple like this. That's my that's my construction vehicle. It's got a gun so that I can remove the accidental blocks. You know what? If someone asked me after this, was I delirious while I was recording this? I don't know. I really don't know. Oh, there's a better way to do this. Oops, shouldn't have welded that up first. Oh well. The better way to do this is to pipe this with a T-piece like that, and then run this around. Like so. And then put the Gatling. Yeah, it'll be slightly offset from center, but if it sits there, I now don't need to do any piping behind the cockpit, which makes it much easier for me to fit a full battery in there. Or, how much lift is this going to need? What I'm wondering is, can I get away with two of the big flat atmospheric thrusters if I place two batteries like this? I'm gonna guess that that's not gonna be anywhere near enough thrust. Well, I went and did some maths and I'm correct. It is nowhere near enough thrust. I think, assuming my numbers are correct, that these thrusters would give me about 8,000 kilograms, no, about 14,000 kilograms of lift, of mass that I can lift in this gravitational environment at sea level, so where the thrusters can give their maximum thrust, which I think something about this size is probably going to get up to that without the steel plate. And when you think about steel plate, each one is 20 kilos, so you get 1,000 kilos just from 50 of them, and I'm definitely going to be wanting to hold a few hundred, so yeah, realistically it's going to get super heavy, super quick, and that's a problem. Now, something else I didn't think about when I was making this and when I picked the cockpit that I've just remembered now, and that I don't think I can actually do anything about, is the fact that it would be nice to have steel plates accessible from the cargo of the ship in the cockpit. The reason I say I can't really do anything about that is the original cockpit, the flush cockpit, and the fighter cockpit all have... Actually, no, more of them have... Okay, it's pretty much only the industrial one that doesn't have the large cargo. Cool. But they all have it on the bottom, except for the fighter cockpit, which has it on the back. But that's not really that practical for me anyway, because I can't really use the fighter cockpit because it's so big. So I don't think that there's... Whoa, that voice sounds different now. My voice is just all over the place right now. I don't think that there's anything I can really do about that, so I think I'm just going to have to accept that if I'm going to be placing blocks, need to remember to have them in my personal inventory before I get in, and then carry them the rest of the time. Now I think I've done this wrong, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grind down this whole thing. I know that I'm going to lose some materials, but whatever. I'm going to go and build this in my pressurizable hangar where I should have been building this all along. I don't need to build it on my train. I can build it in an oxygen-rich environment. So let's go do that. Especially now that I have a clear idea of how much I need. And I realistically need to get at least 4 of the large Flatmo thrusters on there. The other nice thing about building down in that hangar is things won't slide and jiggle like they are doing right now. Like, I've literally got a space to build stuff. I should be using it. It's also well lit, so I can turn off my lights. I mean, out there is not too bad. I am so proud of myself for remembering to light it. I do still need to put lights on the train. I have not forgotten yet. But that is a thing that needs to happen. The other upshot of what I'm doing is that I can now decide if having a connector pointing downwards, even just the small one, was actually the right call at all. And I don't think it was. I think that was the wrong decision. I think I should have started with maybe that being on the rear of the vehicle. Because there's no reason I can't have an elevated connector. Alright, let's start with the welder. Single cargo container. Then, underneath this, flat atmospheric thrusters. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm thinking 3 on this side as well. So we get 6 thrusters, which should give me about 30 tons of max weight that I can carry here. As long as this thing's oriented relatively horizontally. I'm going to need to make sure I put some significant thrust in reverse. And probably that's going to mean using regular thrusters just on the roof. Pointing that way. 2 batteries can fit like that. Then I should be able to fit other things like event controllers and things in this space. Conveyor from the side of, like the back of the cockpit down to the side of that cargo container. And that should be pretty good. So just deciding whether I want to change these back ones out for rounded ones. I think I will. I'm trying to think whether there's any other functional stuff I need to add. Obviously, gyroscope, antenna, event controller, remote control it should have. All of my vehicles should have remote controls, especially ones that are flyable. Just in case. Oh right, I need to turn these things off when I finish them. Because it's on a subgrid, and thrusters don't like that. Oh, I forgot how nice it was to build in this environment. It just makes things so much easier. Do you know what I should have done now that I'm thinking about it? I should have put a cargo container in the floor. Right near here. So I had a cargo access point right there. That would have made this super more efficient. A lot of the time that would have eventually gotten covered over, sure. Energy but critical. Until it got covered over, man, it'd be useful. It makes building so much quicker. And maybe if I had them spread out around the floor, so there was like one every couple of blocks, that would have been maybe taking it all a bit to an extreme, but it would have been nice. The reason I've gone with the big flat atmospheric thrusters on the bottom of this vehicle is that they have a higher efficiency in terms of energy to thrust than the standard thrusters do. So I'm actually getting more lift per unit of energy, and the energy is obviously these batteries, and that's heavy, so if I focus on that, it's obviously quite useful. Now, perfect. That's right, because the cockpit's taller, I can do this without looking weird. Now, do I want sci-fi? Yeah, I'll go with sci-fi. Go with 3 of those across there. Can't put them on the over the collector, because stuff's going to need to drop through there, but I can put them on top of the battery for the other direction. So that'll be my forward and backwards, and then my side thrusters will be flat nose mounted to the side. Easy. Okay, so that goes to the cockpit, then that conveyoring set up that way means I can go back to having the Gatling just straight on top of the cockpit, which I think is better, because it puts it dead in line with the cockpit. There we go. And need a vent, which I don't want to put on top of the Gatling, because that already feels like it's a bit too tall. So I might put a full cube vent in there. So if I go full cube vent there, and then I also, put a small oxygen tank here. That means I can access it from the outside, so if I'm a little too far from the train, I can still... Whoa. That sounded much closer than an unknown signal would be. Everything seems okay though. Must have been one. That explosion sounded super close. Anyway, yeah. Just in case, I figure it's always good to have the ability to fill up my oxygen bottles. I should also put a little bit of... Oh no, I won't worry about putting stuff for like food and water and things. Having a separate cargo container for that, I don't think that's needed. What else is needed? We need a gyroscope. Also, just in case, put a programmable block, timer block, event controller, because the event controller is going to be for docking and undocking. Plus it gives me this nice little bit of extra screens and things on the side for all of this mechanical parts and useful bits. Then need an antenna. Now we need those side thrusters. Part of me is tempted just to do a single large one. I could do. Yeah, what the heck, let's do a single large one. Place them like that. I can possibly do something around the back end here. I'm thinking just for a little bit of decoration, just to allow myself something. Oh, truss pillars are odd and this is even symmetry. No. Right, might do that and then where's the scaffolding blocks? I don't use these enough. I always forget they exist. Do you know what I wish we had, and it really annoys me that we don't in the scaffolding blocks? So in large grid, we've got these bits. Where are they? These bits. I want the frames in small grid. I want them. Just be so nice. Oh, actually, let's not use the truss. We'll just use the scaffold the whole way across. I think that'll look cleaner. I'm trying not to put too much dead mass on this, but there's a part of me that just can't leave it with no decoration at all. Alright, so in terms of connection options that I have right now, I have no ability to connect on the bottom, which I think is actually a good thing in this instance, because this means I can push the connector a little bit higher, making sure that I'm always off the ground when I lock to the train. Even though it's going to push my center of mass higher by putting this attached higher, I think the safety of not cooking through the train's deck is probably worth it. And I think I'm just going to go with a simple connector on here. Just like that. And I'll make a little stalk and pole thing for that to exist on the train at the right height. I'm going to leave this space in here empty for the moment, just in case you guys suggest something to me that I should add in the comments this week, and I'll add it in next week. But let's test this thing and see how much it can actually carry. So, okay, thrusters. Oh dear. I don't want this to drop on the ground, so I'm going to build a couple of supports. Well, that dropped violently. Cool. Good to know. So we got comfortable lift when we are empty. We've got 20, yeah, it's 20,000 kilos, 20,706. So 20 tons. It's decently heavy. Now let's load it up with some steel plate. All right, that seems to be about as far as I can push it. And that is 1,550-ish steel plate. So probably 1,500 is where I'll call my maximum. Yeah, definitely didn't need the medium cargo container. Could have just gone with the collector and the welder, and that's it. Which means if I wanted to remodel this, I could make it so it had a rear-facing large connector and forget about the side connector altogether. It's got a big butt on it, but I think this is going to work pretty well. Part of me kind of wants to leave the little landing legs on there, or even make them more permanent out of something else, like the scaffolding or something like that. I quite like the little landing legs. I think they're almost required because of the use of the flat nose, actually. They are permanent little landing legs to help protect the thrusters, so that when I touch down on something that I'm not resting on the thrusters, because I know they don't like that. I've done it a few times with the flat atmospheric thrusters, and they get a little unhappy. Alright, last thing to do is paint this thing. And wait for you guys to tell me what I've forgotten to put on it. Oh, no! No! Oh, well, I was putting these bits of decorative stuff on. I've just discovered that these are in the wrong spot. Of course I did it wrong. Of course. I'm pretty happy with this. I'm pretty happy. Doesn't have the longest of battery lives, but it doesn't need to. But with this finished, I'm really, really close to being able to actually start building this railway. I think I'm pretty happy with the paint job. Doesn't stand out too much, but doesn't look silly. Yeah. Things come together all right. Next time, hopefully I'll have a voice back. As it's now completely going, which is why I think it's time for me to wrap up the recording. And I will hopefully be building the last little bits on the train and getting this thing out of the station and building that track. And starting to think about what I can do with the Assertive Combat Systems mod to bring back some spice to this gameplay in a way that's not going to end up with my Arboretum getting smashed. Unless I deserve it. Because, you know, combat's got to come with some risk, but I've got to deserve it. So there's all that, and plenty more to come. And I, and hopefully my voice, will see you then. Oh. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out.